2, 1. Everybody, hey, welcome to another episode of ArmTalk. I'm your host, Jody Williams, and today I got my man, Pradeep. Pradeep, I've had you on the show before. It was different. This time it's more like breaking news, but welcome back to the show.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for inviting me. I still hold the record. I maybe about 7, 8 times I've been invited to do a show anywhere, and I'm always more than happy to join. It feels to me it feels better to invite someone on my channel compared to that. It feels better when I go to their channel. So always a pleasure to join you.
Well, good. I'm glad you took time out of your day, or I should say, isn't it like isn't it nighttime over there where you're at?
1 a.m. almost 1 a.m.
Yeah, see, 1 a.m. That's it's like 12:20 afternoon over here, on a Monday. But I want to get your thoughts because obviously the elephant in the room, what's been going on with East versus West. Who would have thought that a league or an organization as big as they are would have? Can you use the word corruption, or they're having it? We'll just be fair and say they're having issues. And when you got two figureheads in this sport, obviously Devin and Ingen, the main players in this whole scenario, when you have two guys, who represent our sport at odds, it makes me wonder, So what's your thoughts about with the phone calls and the video chats and responses? What's your response to all this?
First of all, Jody, I don't take anything from a secretly recorded phone call because let's say I'm on a phone call with you and you're not aware that I'm going to record you. Basically, I can ask some leading questions, some tricky questions to get something out of you. And you may not even be aware of that. And I'm going to act in an extra polite way so that the viewers think that wow, what a nice guy that person is. And that always happens when you're secretly recording anyone. So I don't pay much attention to that. Whatever is being said in the audio, I don't judge a person because of that. That's my take on this.
Right. So
Just the
I'm gonna throw
principle.
something at you, and I want your opinions because with all this stuff going on, and there's here in the States, I don't know about India, but here in the States, there's a lot of stuff going on. We got promotions and promoters and organizations kind of, I don't want to say they're cutting their legs off, or step on each other to make sure that their promotion is the best or whatnot. But what gets me is that all of us want the same thing. We want our sport to, go forward. And it almost seems like at times a lot of us forgot the reason why we got into the sport. And I'm going on year number 16 when December hits this year. And when I first got into the sport, it was never like this. And now we're at this point, how do we get here? Where do we go from here? What's your thoughts on that?
I think all of the promoters or even players they're acting like, what do they say about that? You're either mine or no one else's. I'm going to kill you if you're not mine in a relationship. That's what's happening right now. So you either compete with me or I'm going to kill the league. That's basically what's happening. And it seems to me more of a personal issue between Devon and Engin, and Robert is not really involved in that. Although I've heard that Engin was not really happy with some other stuff too, like the post match interviews not being posted on time, the event not having enough hype around it, the trading cards that were selling 40, 50, 60, $70,000 in revenue every single event. The new owners have stopped doing that altogether right from the day they joined. So
Mhm.
this basic stuff is Engin is not happy about that. So he has many valid points, but you said that everyone wants to move in the direction of growing the sport. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think if more people were honest that I'm in it just for the money, it's not really for the love of the sport. Basically, you can only make money from a sport if you love it, so you don't really have to mention it. But for a guy like Todd Hutchings, he's very open. If you
Yeah.
offer me this amount of money, I'm going to compete. I am a professional arm wrestler. I'm a paid gunslinger, he calls himself, and I arm wrestle only for money. He is clear about it. But does he love the sport? Of course. If he didn't love the sport, he wouldn't be the champion. Nobody can without loving any game. So he loves the
Right.
sport, but then he also does it for the money. If more people were honest like that, then I think we would be in a better situation. I love this. If more organizers were like, I love the sport, but I also want to make money from this sport, and you being an athlete who wants to compete in my league, or being an athlete who is contracted under my league, I don't want to let you compete anywhere else, because those are rival organizations, and I'm here to grow my organization, not the entire sport or not all of the other organizations. And I don't think promoters are open like that. You know what, Jody? I was thinking about it yesterday. Out of all of these leagues, all of the promoters, who was the one promoter who never got any controversy? Maybe there were some inside stuff that we don't know about it, but at least the public controversy. That was Steve Kaplan. Like, no controversies around that guy. Yes, there was an event that fell off, but Paulin was telling me, he was pretty clear that okay, the sponsors fell off, they just left the thing, and I'm not going to organize it anymore. This happened, I think, in 2017 or 18. I'm not sure
Yeah,
about
it
the
was around that
years.
time.
But that's a clear businessman. That wasn't really any controversy. The sponsors were not there, so he didn't organize. But other than that, everything was working perfectly fine. But if you take a look at WAF president, he's always in controversies. Engin Terzi, always in controversies. Igor, he was always in controversies. And now even the new owners of East versus West, they just cannot stay away from that. We need Steve Kaplan back. That's what we
I
need
mean,
now.
even like Knuckles Up was in controversy. I mean, if you want to go there from on a smaller scale, but and I want to go back to the comment you said about, hey, either join my league or I'm shutting the whole thing down. But we all know not everybody can be a part of that league. There's only a select there's only handpicked guys, or let me retract my statement. There's a select few that can't compete on that level, right? Not everybody can. So, and like I said, when you have two monumental figures like Devin, he moves the needle. Let's be real, okay? He moves the needle wherever he goes about the sport. Engin, he moves the needle when it comes to the sport. And I always sit there and say, okay, well, it's almost like that coworker you work with. You don't really like them, but you got to work with them to make sure the job gets done. It's kind of, we're at that point now. Do you think how much of that is true in your opinion?
Ideally, it should be like that, but I don't think Engin is the kind of guy that will work with you in a scenario like this, where yes, we don't like each other, but we're still going to work for our salary or for a greater cause in this case. I don't think Engin is like that. If he has even any slight disagreement with you, he's going to block you if you don't work with him, and if you work with him, he's going to fire you. So that's the only way around Engin. So I'm not sure if yes, Devon did say this in his recent video, but I'm not sure if they'll be able to work like that, because Devon will keep suggesting things to the promoters, and him being the face of arm wrestling league East versus West, they'll have to listen to at least some of the suggestions made by Devon, and Engin is not going to like that, if especially if those suggestions are not in alignment with Engin's personal beliefs and his experience about how to grow the sport.
Well, what gets me is that even though you like Engin sold his shares, right? When you sell your shares, and it's like going, okay, well, how much say do you really have now? And now that he kind of stepped away for a moment and all this blew up, now it's like, okay, well, is he still trying to control things even though he sold his shares?
Yeah, and he keeps on bringing the written agreements. I'm not sure, because if we're talking about a signed written agreement, of course he has to be talking in legal terms. So once you have sold 100% of the shares, and then you're still controlling the refereeing aspect, the matchmaking, which is the most important thing, the announcers, the commentators, and the rules. So basically, he still controls everything. How does that work out? I don't think if he takes those agreements, written signed agreements, to any court, I don't think they are going to stand anywhere. The judge is going to just tell him that, bro, you sold the whole company. Just because you have it written on a paper and got it signed by someone, it doesn't mean it's enforceable. I don't think any of those things are enforceable anywhere.
Right. Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
so
like I saw videos, they made good points. Like Engin made a good point where, with the refereeing, there's always controversy with Devin. He even said in his video how Devin kind of does this and he got a lot now. And then Devin's like, what? What do you mean? It's like almost every arm wrestler cheats anyway. So let's just get that out the way. Every arm wrestler cheats, or they'll do what they can until the ref says no, right? But at the same time, I've seen other athletes get screwed by the refs, and we're like going, what are we doing here? I mean, you got athletes flying from across, you know, the ocean to compete, and sometimes they don't get the benefit of the doubt because it's a little one-sided. You know, there was a speculation that Levon doesn't want an American referee in his matches because they think that, you know, hey, there might be some bias going on and stuff like that, you know? And I don't think, you know, if that's true, I don't think Levon has nothing to worry about at this point. He's just that much dominant. I don't think it's going to even come close to anything like that. But, you know, I mean, what are your thoughts about stuff like that? About sometimes the athletes are not being treated right or have given a fair shake during matches. What's your thoughts on that?
I think there's a simple solution to that. A well defined rule of a protest. That must be there. And it's still not there at East versus West. It's about whoever can cry the loudest, whoever can complain the most. Michael Todd complains all the time when he believes he's been cheated by the referees, and he's loud, he's vocal. That's why he gets the review. And if some arm wrestler doesn't do that, they don't get the review. That's not how the review system should be working. So if it's a clear rule about reviews or protests, whatever you want to call it, it should be mentioned that the protest will be looking at the match right from the beginning. So just because you complained about something that happened 30 seconds into the match, it doesn't mean that we are going to look only into that. We're going to look right from the beginning, whatever happened there. So in that case, if there was a false start on me, but I thought the referees gave me a bad call 30 seconds in, then they start watching right from the beginning, and I did a false start, or I did an elbow foul 5 seconds into the match, then I'll be the one who will be getting the foul. So, and there should be multiple cameras that can review it. So, and also it's a weird thing, but I just remembered about it. So we watch cricket and maybe in some other sports too. When there is a protest and the referee was wrong, then he has to make some kind, like there's a gesture for that. He either does that or bows down a little bit. So it's kind of an apologizing thing. I think that should be implemented in the arm wrestling game as well. So that the referee feels a little bit bad about the wrong calls that they made. So they'll also be more careful the next time. So I think a protest can fix almost all of the problems. A protest would have fixed the problem of Levan literally going on the stage and giving Luke Polster a slap on his arm, because there was no protest. If there was, then they would have just thrown in the towel. Hey,
Right.
here's the protest. Just take a look at this thing again. It wasn't a pin. So Levan wouldn't need to go there. So it can fix a lot of problems. But I've been suggesting that to Engin for like 3 years now. I've suggested that to the new organizers as well. And for some reason, they just don't want to listen. They don't want to change any rules.
Yeah, I can go with that. Also, you know, if let's just say you have 12 matches on the East versus West card, right? And you said if you don't agree with one of the calls from the ref, then hey, I'm not getting off this table until you review it. Can you imagine that if every athlete did that for every single match, then now we're looking at a 7-8 hour show, and no one
But
has
one
a
call. But you get one protest. If you're wrong, then it is gone. And if you're right,
oh
then it
okay
stays. Yeah.
okay I
Yeah,
got you because I remember
that's the rule that is followed everywhere. One protest, if you're correct, that continues. If that's incorrect, then you lose it for the entire match.
so you know how WAF does it where like
Money.
hey, I want to challenge that call. All right, it's going to cost you $50. Now, if they do that, let's just say, hey, I'm scheduled to make X amount of money for this match. And if I want to protest, then okay, well, guess what? We're taking $50 off that,
Yeah.
earnings that you get for this match. That way, okay, if we're going to do this and take time and stretch this pay-per-view out, then it's going to cost you. If it's that serious to you, you can cough up that. Would that be an option like they do in WAF Worlds?
50% is a lot. So if Devin gets paid $70,000 to arm wrestle Levan, then taking 35 away is a crazy thing.
Oh
I
no,
don't
I
think
meant
it's
$50.
oh,
$50. Like,
$50.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think it is going to matter. So if he's getting paid 20,000, he can still take like 5 reviews. I don't think $250 is going to mean anything to that guy. So I don't think just one review. I think it's enough. It won't take that much time. If they were really concerned about the time, then how about having less matches? Robert Baxter is the owner of the league, and he kept on saying if we want to go mainstream, then we cannot have a show that that goes on for longer than 3 hours, and yet he cannot convince Engin to have less matches. So what kind of owner he really is? Engin is controlling the matchmaking, but is he also controlling the number of matches that are taking place at an event? So we shouldn't be really worried about a protest potentially correcting an incorrect call made by the referee if it is going to take even 2 minutes per match. A protest should not take that more than that, brother. I think it shouldn't take more than 2 minutes. And if every single arm wrestler protests, there are 10 matches, 20 arm wrestlers, it's still like 40 minutes extra time if every single person does that. It won't take more than 2 minutes if we have sufficient camera angles available. Otherwise, they'll just keep on trying to find the correct camera angle, and the referee should be aware of those camera angles. He should be clearly speaking into his microphone. Camera 6, that's what I need to see on the screen, and immediately camera 6 starts rolling the footage on the computer. I think it can be done, and for that there should be a video referee. So I think that was Kevin Wolf. I saw his video, his suggestions, and he was saying there should be 4 referees, one who's controlling, 2 who are at the table, one who's controlling the screen, who's a video referee, and the third person who's just controlling the environment, looking at the corner men and looking at all of the other stuff that is going around the arm wrestling match. So I don't think even all of the arm wrestlers protesting is necessarily a bad thing. I don't think it will take too much time if we have sufficient camera angles and qualified referees to look at those camera angles available with us.
And I'm also wondering, are the referees in a good position? Because the one that sticks out of my mind while we're talking about this is the match with Michael Todd and Vitali. And I want to say it was match number 3, round 3. And, Vitali's come with the press, and Michael kind of went out like that. But when he came out, he was close enough to the pad, but his fingers never actually went below the pin pad. And they called it, hey, that's a match. And Michael kind of lost his shit. And when they did the review, I understand in real time you have to make a decision. It's like baseball umpire. You got to make a decision. And I know they made a decision, but during the replay, and good job on the guys from the camera crew that got the replay up like that, and they gave us multiple angles. And Mike's fingers never went below the pad, but they called that a little premature. And what I'm wondering is like, well, the whole world can see it. Why is it taking so long to come up with a decision? I'm like, I understand why Mike got upset, and this is where it's like, oh, okay, well, who's in charge of the refs? And you want to have different set of refs. You don't want to have the same ones every single time, because sometimes that can create, controversy, or, you don't want one ref having a disdain for a certain athlete, because sometimes athletes can be a certain way and the refs don't like that. And then you don't want them to have a personal opinion. You got to, no matter how you feel about an athlete, you have a job to do. That's to call the match down the middle, no matter what your feelings are about an athlete. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I also don't like when the referees say that on video you were seeing a different angle. It was either pointing downwards or upwards, so we got the best view. Then tell the guys to have cameras that are right at the table view, so even the viewers can see that, they can actually see and come to a conclusion if that was a pin or not. Why have cameras at a higher angle? Have some separate pin cameras. Why don't they implement what Igor Mazurenko did, having cameras on the arm wrestling table? I think that's a must. Yeah.
Actually, there's a guy in Utah who has that, and it works perfectly, because they're at the corners, right? Because you got those pin pads that they'll go straight, and you got the ones that kind of angle like that. And he has the cameras on opposite ends. That way you can see both elbows, kind of like with Igor used to do in his league and with the PAL. And I'm like, why can't we adopt that? Because that right there will tell you what's going on. To the point, there were times you didn't need a down ref, because you had the cameras there, and then you had the people right in front in the stage, and they will sit there and tell you if it was a foul or not, because they're looking at the same cameras that are actually on the table. Why can't we adopt something like that?
Yeah. I think one thing, if that will immediately fail if correct review procedure with correct cameras are implemented, it is micro foul thing. Now we have a thing like if it's a small foul, don't call it if there was no advantage gained. That stuff cannot work under a review. Let's say if I'm arm wrestling you and I saw you lifted your elbow just a little bit, and I immediately stopped arm wrestling. I say, review, there was a foul on Jody. and then the referee reviewing the footage, he cannot say, yeah, I see an elbow foul on him, but that's like only 1 centimeter, so I'm not going to give it a foul. Like he cannot say that when he's reviewing the thing. So I don't think this review system, maybe that's why they don't have a review, because this micro foul thing, I don't think it can work under a good review system. And you were just asking me about the athletes potentially getting screwed because of early calls or something. Yeah, a lot of people talk about it, that if it's a pin and you don't give it a pin, it's not as big of a deal when you compare it to giving it a pin when it wasn't really a pin. You can maybe compare this stuff to guilty unless innocent unless proven guilty thing. So
Right.
so yeah, if guilty is like getting buried under the pin pad, then maybe wait for a little bit. And Paul Lynn faces this every single time. He has to literally bury his opponent for like 5 seconds before the referees call it. So maybe it is still better than
What
prematurely
was up with
calling.
that? I mean, even Paul's like, how many times I got to pin this guy? Because, like what are you waiting on? Like, seriously, I mean, it almost seemed biased. It almost seems like, okay, and ever since, and correct me if I'm wrong, ever since Baxter kind of, put his name in the hat to own East vs. West, now we've had more, more and more events on the, North American side, which is great, But that one we're talking about where Paul Lynn's like, how many times I got to pin this guy? Are you looking at this? And Paul, the nicest guy you ever want to meet, when he's starting to get fired up, and I'm not talking about getting fired up for a match, but getting fired up because the no call. It's like, okay, what do you want? Because there's the inconsistency. Michael Todd's fingers never even broke the plane, and you call match. Here's Paul Lynn like going, dude, I'm damn near got the guy below touching the pad, and you still won't call it. So, and this is where the inconsistencies happen. So, if you continue with this, let's just say we go forward, right? And I guess the next one would be what, the Brian Shaw Classic next month. So, if we continue this, what are we looking at as far as referees? Because it's like going some way, somehow, you got people flying over from all parts of the world coming to compete, and the last thing you want to do is get screwed because a referee is not doing their job. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I don't like it when people say, oh, we should not be calling out the referees too much. It's a very difficult job. As a fan, why should I care if it's a difficult job or an easier job? I want to see perfect refereeing. Whenever I see some fault in it, I am going to call it out. And on my channel, I always encourage the viewers. I literally sometimes tell them that call these referees out. Comment your frustration. Let them know. Even DM these referees that are making these mistakes. Let them know. It's not our responsibility to say, well, it's a difficult job. Good job. You only missed 3 out of 15 calls. So overall, it was a good performance. No, we don't care about those good calls. That's a must. That's the bare minimum that you should be doing. So yes, I think the referees, and they are from an official organization. The organization is paying them. They have that responsibility. Me on my channel, it's a completely private thing. The viewers or the organizations are not paying me. It's YouTube that's paying me. And if I make a mistake, I get called out in the comments all of the time. Even if sometimes I don't get a mistake. So why should the referees be immune to that? So my suggestion is call these referees out whenever they make these. The Turkish referee, when Paul Lynn buries Sasha Andre for like 10 seconds and he doesn't give it a pin, DM that guy. Tell him what kind of terrible refereeing he did. So next time maybe he doesn't like those messages. Maybe he blocks you. I don't know what he does. But let these referees know. If me having like no official obligations to be to the event, if I report something incorrect, if I say something that may be correct but the fans don't like it, they call me out, they say me all sorts of things. So why should the referees and also the arm wrestlers be immune to that? So my suggestion is call everybody out. Let your frustration out. Don't hold it back just for showing the respect to the referees.
And the last thing about the rest before we move forward is that, and I don't know if this happens or not, but everyone sees it. Like the fans see it, the people at home see it. I'm sure Robert and Dexter, they all see it. And I'm wondering that, okay, with the two matches we talked about, Paul Lynn's match, Michael Todd's match, and I'm wondering after the event, when it's all said and done, is there a meeting where Robert, Dexter, Ing, and whoever bring all the referees into a meeting room and say, look, there was a couple mistakes. We got to make sure we tighten up on this. Y'all got to lock in, because right now that could have been catastrophic, as far as matches. One guy could have easily lost a match because of an incorrect call. Another guy could have lost momentum or drained himself out because a non-call. So I wonder if some of the powers that be have all these meetings with these referees after every event. I don't know if it happens, but if it doesn't, do you think that should be something that be considered?
Can you please again repeat the question? My mistake. I started thinking about something else. I saw a comment and yeah, please.
Here, all right, I'll go ahead. I'll minimize it. That was a long question.
Yeah.
My question was, do you think, if they don't already, that Baxter, Dexter, and Egan should have a meeting after the event with all the referees and kind of sit there and tell them, hey, this is what I like, this is what I didn't like? Do you think, if they don't do it now, do you think that's something that should happen?
No. There should be no meetings that should be held for something which is so obvious. I always hated the rule meetings. Why would there be a rule meeting? These arm wrestlers have been arm wrestling for like 20 years. The referees have been reffing matches for 20 years. What do they need to explain to the athletes? Have the set of rules written down, hand over the copies to all of the athletes, or send them a PDF on WhatsApp, share it on social media for the fans. What for those rule meetings were? They always created some kind of controversy. So maybe they were just to create some controversy, some hype around the event. I don't see a point in having any rule meeting before or even after the match. The referees should by now know all of the rules. And I doubt, Jody, if you ask all of the referees about all of the rules, if you create a difficult Q&A situation, a question paper for the referees, I don't think all of them are going to get all of the questions right, even from a set of rules that is literally just 3 pages long. Many of them are going to get correct. And this running foul system, I think, I don't watch many other sports, only maybe a couple of other sports I watched other than arm wrestling. But I still think this running foul may be one of the most complex and one of the most difficult to implement rules in the world. What do you have to say about that?
If it's ran correctly, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the godfather of the running fouls was probably Neil Pickup at Arm Wars. And, I was very fortunate to be a part of that. And I know how that goes. And with the running fouls, at least, if I'm so into the match, right, I'm grinding with a guy and my elbow happens to slip off or bounce up, at least they could tell you, Jody, you're on a runner. Because at least that tells me that, okay, I got to really, either put more weight on my elbow, or I got to watch where I'm going, but not everything is like that, because Neil had it originally. I think WL had a difference like that. It just ran a little different. And then we got this stuff now. It's just like, let's figure out one thing and go, okay, if we're going to do this running foul, then I don't know. It can be confusing. I have to admit it can, I mean, your thoughts, because
I've seen arm wrestlers speak in favor of running foul. Against that too, I've seen the fans say that running foul is good, but I'm yet to see a referee or a commentator say that it's a good system, because it's literally a commentator's and a referee's nightmare, a running foul. That's because for them it's the most difficult thing. Are you frozen? No.
I'm good.
Yeah. The referee, if you are refereeing, let me ask you, if you're refereeing a match, then what would you want? A normal foul system or a running foul system?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. I know from the pay-per-view and the audience, you want people to say, hey, we want to see a match. We don't want to see, matches stop because you got a bunny hop on a, elbow
yeah, but then
foul.
keep the elbows on the pad. Jody, answer this question to me. The first time I went into an arm wrestling tournament, it was back in 2019, right? None of the beginners, you must have seen it, in the amateur class, nobody elbow fouls. Everyone keeps their elbow on the pad. So why can't the pros do something which the amateurs can so easily do?
Good question. It goes to the rules. Like, hey, we're it's up to us as athletes. It's our responsibility to make sure we keep our elbows on the pad, know where we're at all times. it's our responsibility to make sure we make contact with the hand pad, whether you're holding it, touching it, whatever. It's our responsibility. Just like once the ref says go, it's our responsibility to make sure our elbow stays on that 7x7-inch pad. I will say this though, I've seen it where, what year was that? I can't remember what year it was, and I don't mean to use Marcio Barboza as an example, but for this argument, I always do. This is not a jab at Marcio, but I remember one year during the WAL, they got the running fouls and stuff, right? And he was used to that. Later that year in November, he went to Nemiroff, and he fouled out just like that. When you go from one organization with one set of rules, running fouls, you can get a little bit more sloppy. But when you go to a strict competition like Nemiroff Zloty Cup, and then you're fouled out because, hey, at least with the that kind of system, it makes the athlete pull in control. You're not being so sloppy with everything you got to do. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's how I look at that.
Yeah, in my mind, any kind of foul, whether it is small or big, it happens either consciously or subconsciously to give you an advantage or to save you from getting into a disadvantageous position, which in itself is giving you an advantage. Because you can, maybe the difference is that the beginners plant their elbows on the elbow pad, the amateurs they don't move it too much, and that doesn't give them that extra advantage that you might get from moving the elbow, which the pros does. But then doesn't it mean that the pros want to gain some kind of advantage? That's why the elbow fouled, because they can decide to plant their elbows like a beginner. Like you can get Levance again actually against me, and if he goes sideways, my elbow is not lifting off the pad unless he just decides to hammer curl me. So the elbow foul is always there to give you an advantage. And isn't it also strange that the guys who don't compete, mostly from North America, the guys who don't compete under strict rules, maybe they never have competed against rules as strict as WAF or Nemiroff or Zloty, they're the ones who are complaining about strict rules, and that yet they have never competed under those rules. And the guys who are competing there, how many Europeans do you see complaining about strict rules? How many Europeans do you see saying that, well, small fouls shouldn't be called or the refereeing should be more relaxed? So the guys who are actually competing there, they think the rules are fine.
Right. No, I mean, that's a great point, and what can we expect going forward? To change gears, the Shaw Classic coming up next month. What can we expect from that event?
I don't even know if for what prize money. Is it a pay-per-view or what? I don't think. Maybe I'm missing something. They've announced something. I don't. So I saw a month or two ago. I saw the link to get physical tickets to the event, but I didn't see a pay-per-view link. I'm not sure if it is available right now or not. So from what sense are you asking? Like just as an event, or for the fans, how many pay-per-views it is going to sell, or how many views is it going to get? In what sense?
Well, I mean, at first it was just going to be, hey, Brian Shaw's doing a Brian Shaw Classic. And now with the rumblings about this morphed into an East vs. West event. So now it's like, okay, it went from just a regular tournament to now that. So, what can we expect? There's some matches that's already made, and I'm wondering, and I don't know if I can even talk about this yet, but there's some matches that were made that at least one particular match that I know of that's on there that could have easily been on East vs. West. But it's on the opposite hand, so we'll have to see how that goes out. But, I got to look more into it and find out exactly if this is going to be a pay-per-view or not. I would imagine so, now that they're trying to put together a package to where it coincides with East vs. West. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. But with all the corruption going on and some athletes not being able to make it over here, and is it going to be, is it going to be good? Because, you won't have as many international athletes on this card.
Now I'm getting a message from Coach Ray, an invite link. I got a WhatsApp message from someone telling me that Coach Ray is trying to find you. Where did you go? But now I'm already here. So yeah, Brian Shaw Classic. I'm not sure if I've heard too many fans say that, wow, we cannot wait to see who wins between Brian Shaw and Brandon Allen.
Right.
Yes, everyone keeps on saying that Brian Shaw is good for the sport, which I'm sure he is in a way. But it isn't necessarily about the views that it is going to get. You can go to Brian Shaw's channel and the arm wrestling videos that he's uploading is getting much more views than his other regular stuff. So is it Brian Shaw that is giving views to arm wrestling, or is it arm wrestling that is giving more views to Brian Shaw? I'm not sure about that. But yeah, he can help arm wrestling in the sense that he knows a lot of people. He potentially knows a lot of sponsors, the guys who can help with event management, the guys who can actually do stuff, the guys who have connections. Brian Shaw can help arm wrestling with all of that. But I am not ready to buy the point that he is going to help arm wrestling get a ton of views. Not necessarily, not directly at least.
Well, the initial thought, this was my initial thought. When this started to break apart, I'm thinking, okay, Engen's out, F it. And then the Europeans were like going, well, if Engen's out, so am I. I'm thinking, oh, crap, here we go. And it's starting to crumble down. And then that's when the Brian Shaw thing was talked about being the next East versus West. I only thought for a split second, I'm thinking, this is like WAL all over again. Where it's like, okay, it's going to be North America labeled, Canada, United States, and maybe a few others. That was my original thought process and all that. It's going to be that all over again. But man, I mean, I'm kind of interested because what you don't want to do is lose money in this process because of what's been going on lately. You know what I mean?
And that's also a thing. I'm not really sure if it is that easy to organize a profitable event, at least not the first time. At least not unless you have a big super match, like a top tier super match that would include guys like Denis Siplenkov, Devon Laird, Levan Saginashvili, Hermes Gasparini, Vitaly Laletin. I'm not even including Michael Todd in that because I believe he's a tier below that in terms of pay-per-view sales. So without that, I'm not sure if it is possible to not lose money on your first arm wrestling event, because why would even the sponsors put good amount of money in your first event? They don't know what to expect from it. So I think if you're just looking at the arm wrestling part, of course, I think he's going to lose some money. For sure, I think he will.
Well, I mean, and like I said, going forward, it's just hard because you want to say, okay, with all this going on, and then another thing that kind of crossed my mind when all this is going on, does that mean England's going to stay over in Europe and, create his own league because all the Europeans support England? So I thought, here's a divide right here. Baxter will have North America and they'll have their events. England will stay over in the Europe area and have all the Eastern athletes on that side. I'm like, here we go again. It's just a big divide. And now we're kind of going, okay, now what do we do? That also crossed my mind. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I'll answer that. But first, a question. Brian just did a Mr. Beast video, might help with some views. Yeah, that video got like 60 million views, and Brian Shaw is a small part of it. So it's a 20-minute video, and they've done maybe 10 different sections with 10 different athletes and stuff like that. Brian Shaw is like a 60-second part of it. He's doing tug of war against a tiger or a lion. So it's cool. It's cool. But Gabriela Vasconcelos, she had a separate, at least it was a short, not a regular video. She was also on Mr. Beast. I think that helped arm wrestling more than that. So
Yeah.
So it's coming back to your question, which you were asking about Engin creating a separate league. He has a long way to go, many years to go before his non-compete agreement expires. That's the thing. Ethically, he shouldn't do that. But even though he has signed a legal document, a non-compete agreement, if he organizes his event in in Turkey, Istanbul, where he kept on organizing the event until maybe East versus West 10 or 12, whatever it was, what is Robert Baxter or East versus West going to do about that? I don't think internationally they can basically do anything. Maybe they can sue Engin if Engin steps foot in US soil, but he won't. And most of the arm wrestlers also won't go there. So that's the thing. So if Engin decides to do that, if he decides to break the non-compete agreement, I'm not really sure if East versus West can do much about that.
They probably have to change the name. So, but Nathan Williamson says Brian's event will make money. Why? Because Brian and Strongman appeals to sponsors a lot more, which has a lot more carryover than arm wrestling.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said if we're considering only the arm wrestling part, because it's a combined event, the Shaw Classic event, of course it's going to have sponsors. That's why I knew it. That's why I said if we consider only the arm wrestling part, I don't think he's going to make any money specifically from that. Definitely not from the pay-per-views, and I don't think any new sponsor joined or big sponsor joined just because he was going to have an arm wrestling event there as well. That's what I was
Right.
trying to say.
Well, like I said, all we could do is just, hope for the best. And hopefully, with all this Ingen and Devin, bashing each other, or whatever phone calls were recorded, or whatever the case may be, hopefully, they can just, cooler heads will prevail. Is that the saying? And hoping go, look, I'm mad. He's mad. Let's be real. They all said something they probably didn't mean because it was out of emotion, out of anger or whatnot. But now it's like, okay, because now Armas is just kind of sitting up there. Where do we go from here? What can we do? Can they make up? Will this relationship, friendship, whatever, can it ever be repaired for the sake of the sport? That is the number one question going forward. Pradeep, what's your answer? What's your opinion about that?
Yes, obviously it can be repaired. I didn't see anything too serious between Devon and Engin, at least from their videos. I've talked with both of them personally. At least personally, it looked like they had more animosity towards each other than what they showed in their public videos. But people are saying that even Devon was saying that we can move forward even if two guys don't like each other. It shouldn't be affecting the league. They should be able to move forward. But it is affecting the league, and I think it will affect the league. Devon doesn't want Engin in the league. Engin wants Devon in the league, but he doesn't want him to control anything. So unless they sort these things out, I think it is going to affect everything. I'm not sure how they're going to move forward, and everyone keeps on we keep on talking about Engin and Devon. First of all, I'm not sure why Robert Baxter and also Dexter, they're basically silent on this whole topic, why they're not actively trying to do anything to just end this controversy, why they're not messaging Engin and Devon to completely stop talking about this, and why aren't they messaging all of the European athletes? As soon as Engin uploads a video, all of the European arm wrestlers are sharing that on their story. Don't tell me that they just are on their YouTube the entire day, and as soon as Engin uploads a video, within like 30 minutes, they share it on their story. Of course, Engin is sending his video to them. Of course, he's also maybe asking them to share that. In my mind, all of the European arm wrestlers that are maybe now talking shit about Devon, maybe they're doing that to protect themselves from having to compete in the league where the rules are changed by Devon or whatever they're saying. But I think they are destroying the league more than Engin or Devon at this point. Them all walking away, them all sharing negative stuff about East versus West and Devon Larratt, or basically the whole Western arm wrestling scene. I think that is destroying the league more than that. Why isn't Robert Baxter messaging Kalinishenko or Evgeny Prudnik or Vitaly Laletin or Denis Siplenko or Dadikyan? These two just shared one story, but Kalinishenko, Evgeny Prudnik, why aren't they telling them to stop doing this? Why are these athletes, every time Engin uploads a response video or anything, some private things of Devon Ladd gets leaked, Evgeny Prudnik shared that as well on his Instagram? What are they doing? What are they trying to achieve here? Why is it Europe versus Devon Ladd at this point? I don't get this part.
No, that's an awesome question to ask, because I think by all the guys on the East side constantly responding, whether Engin wants them to or not, that's even making the situation worse. You're just driving a wedge, and now instead of here, now we're there. You see what I'm saying? And when they respond, now we're there. And maybe I'm going to take an educated guess. Maybe Robert has not said nothing yet, and I'm just guessing. Maybe because he wants to make sure if we go out and make a statement, we got to have all our facts, all our ducks in a row before we say anything, because the way things get blown out of proportion, with these videos, you want to make sure you want to make a decision that's not based on emotion. Because right now, everyone's emotions are high. As soon as Engin said, hey, I'm out, or, fuck you, fuck that, and, Devin, same way, emotions got involved. And what happened? Then it's like, oh, well, if Engin's out, I'm out. Okay, is it because that's how you feel, or because it's a knee-jerk reaction? And I think, a lot of people kind of go, all right, let's just pump the brakes for a second. What exactly, what the fuck actually happened, before we just start going, okay, well, oh, They did what to you? Okay, well, whatever they did, I don't care. I'm with you. I support you. That doesn't help anything either. And I think Robert, because he's a businessman, right? He's a businessman. He wants to make sure everything is kind of like, all right, guys, let's just chill for a second. Let's have a meeting. And maybe he's trying to do that. Maybe they're not responding. I don't know. But what those guys are doing over there, sharing, I'm not going to do this because you did this to England. That doesn't help matters. It doesn't.
That's bullshit. I said that in one of my videos too, that all of the guys are sharing that we are either with Engin or we are not with no one else. We are not going to compete unless Engin is involved, unless he's organizing. My question to those arm wrestlers, basically all of the 15, 16 guys that have shared the same stuff is, what if Engin never decides to come back? What if Engin decides to quit and he's never going to organize any event ever? So are all of these arm wrestlers just going to retire? Or what happens when they come back to Robert Baxter and East versus West? And what if Robert tells them, oh, I thought you're not going to compete unless Engin is there? What happened then? What would their answer be in that case? Like they should be thinking more before saying a bunch of stuff like that. I even messaged Hermes Gasparini about that. Bro, you said that you're not going to compete unless Engin is organizing, unless Engin is involved. So what about the fans? Basically, you give zero fucks about the fans. Because the fans, if you ask them, they want you to compete. The fans won't be saying, Hermes, okay, Engin is not there, don't compete at East versus West. We don't want to see you put your elbow on the arm wrestling pad and we don't want to see you win. So basically, did Engin make those athletes superstars only? Was Engin the only person? The fans had no role in that. And now if you're competing at WAF and stuff like that, maybe you're just an individual. But now if you're an arm wrestling superstar, especially these top 10 guys, they, in my mind, they should be at least slightly or partially responsible to the fans as well. They should be answering stuff to the fans as well. So what if a fan asks guys like Gennady or Hermes or all of these guys who quit because Engin quit, what about us fans? You don't care about us? And I don't think any of them is going to have any answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know what the financial, situation is, because you look at all the people who buy the pay-per-views, right? Where's that money going? Is some of that portion? And let me ask you this: I don't know, but maybe you have a better idea. Let's just say you and I, we buy a pay-per-view from East versus West, right? And everybody there, how much of that goes back to some of the athletes? And that kind of goes back to what you're saying. Like, what about the fans? Because if we just stop right now, cold turkey, right? There's still some matches out there that we want to see. There is. We do want to see a Devin versus Morozov. I still want to see that. And are we going to get to see that? Who knows? Is somebody going to knock off Levon? I don't know. But you want to kind of see stuff like that. And with the way things are right now, who knows? But as a fan, and there's times I can't, buy every pay-per-view, but, there's certain matches that intrigue me. I want to know, hey, what's going on? I want to see Tazilla again. I want to see Yoshi again, but if this is where it's at right now, how are we going to do this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why I like the Western arm wrestlers a lot more than the Eastern guys in this situation, because none of them said that we are also quitting because Engin is not organizing. No, you will have to arm wrestle. It's like saying that we are going to leave the job if your boss leaves and there's a new boss now. Okay, then there's a new boss in the other organization as well where you're going to probably switch jobs. If your boss has retired completely, then it cannot be like I am also going to retire. You have to feed your families, and in that case you have to be answerable to the fans as well. And the thing that I mentioned about sending DMs to referees when they make a mistake, I said this in my live stream about the arm wrestlers too. Yeah, I said that to the viewers, that message these arm wrestlers that and ask them, bro, you don't care about us? What about the fans? You said you won't compete because Engin isn't organizing. What about me as a fan? I want to see you compete at East versus West. I don't care who's organizing. I don't care if Engin quits or not. I just want to see you compete. And let's see if they have an answer to that or not.
I just want to, see good arm wrestling. I mean, it's always like, when you got something good and the ball's rolling, right? Everything's going good and something happens and all of a sudden the wheels start falling off. You know, at first it's a hubcap, then it's an axle, then it bust, and then it's just like it just falls off. It's like going, why? You got something good, and something always happens, and it's like going crap. And us fans are like going, well, here we go. We saw it with the UAL, we saw it with WAL. Now we're seeing it with this. And I'm not going to even talk about King of the Table right now. I'm not. That's another discussion. But you know, when something goes good, something always happens, and the wheels fall off, and we're trying to go, okay, where we go from here as fans, you know, because again, not everybody can be a part of that as far as competing. So as fans, we still want to see matches. I still want to see some of those great matches that we haven't seen yet. You know, are we going to see it? I still want to see Kamil Jablonski versus Jerry Cataract. That's another match I would love to see. So right now, I just gave you guys 2 matches that I still want to see that we may or may not see. Okay, Cataract Jablonski, Devin against Morozov. I still want to see that. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Jay Nicholas is saying they don't answer to you. You sound beyond entitled. Everyone should be entitled. If you are a paying subscriber to them, you're purchasing the pay-per-views, you should be you should also be feeling entitled, and sending someone a message asking them something as a fan, I don't think it's too much of an entitlement. And yes, they do answer to me. That's why I want more of these comments, so that they have to answer the same thing to 100 different people, or maybe make a video about that yes, guys, don't ask me. I do care about the fans too. So, and in fact, not only answering, they sometimes arm wrestlers message me when I don't want them to message me. So if I'm uploading a video, so this I analyze this whole topic. One video I discuss topics where I'm saying that, and guys, I've seen some comments. Pradeep is inviting. Yeah, Coach Ray has like 1100 viewers, but it's like I went to a friend for a dinner. He's preparing food for me, and just because a separate friend has more delicious food, 1100 viewers, I'm not going to tell him that I'm leaving. I'm going over there. That's a bit rude in my opinion. Yeah.
Appreciate that.
So yeah, I was just about to finish what I was saying. So sometimes I see the whole situation, and then I am saying, but this case can be different, because I asked that other friend to prepare some food for me that I might be coming. I asked him to join his live stream. So I think about the whole situation. I prepare some points, analyzing one video where I'm saying, okay, this is this from Devon's perspective, why Devon may have done this. And then then after that video, Engin messages me because he thinks I'm whatever I'm saying is wrong. Then I also make a video which I've already recorded. I upload a video talking about stuff from Engin's perspective, why he may be right in this situation. Then Devon messages me telling me that, bro, my video was BS, and I don't want these messages from arm wrestlers. And yet all of them do. Almost all of them, whenever they don't like anything about my videos, they do message me. So yeah, they do answer me. That's the question.
Well, I think that, you know, and we can be, I think it's fair to say this. Devin is right on some topics, so is Engin. Devin is wrong on some topics, so is Engin, right? So now it's like, okay, instead of just finger point, like, fuck it, here we are now. What are we doing? Because right now, and I want your opinion on this. And everybody in the chat, thanks for watching, by the way. I want y'all's opinion too. Because there's no clear-cut decision yet about where we're going forward. And like you said earlier, we got a lot of athletes who are involved in East First Western that's kind of sitting there going, okay, what are we doing here? Like, you know, waiting to go, are we going this way? Are we going that way? Because that affects me as far as my training. That affects me as far as who am I training for? That affects me to like, am I going to pull anymore? Where do I pull? And I'm not going to be getting to the contract aspect, but you got a lot of athletes who are involved in East First West that compete on that stage wondering, what are we doing now? We're just kind of sitting in limbo.
So what happens now, brother? I'm sorry, I just want to maybe don't talk about this topic anymore, because I've literally done many videos. I literally said, me and my brother talked about this, and we were saying, okay, enough of this subject. Let's move on to the separate topic. And I stopped talking about that. I didn't even talk about Engin's leaked audio, because I personally don't think it was a right thing to do.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, the Aussie arm wrestler uploaded it anyways. And then I saw both Engin and Devon upload videos about that. Okay, maybe I also need to get back on this, get back on this subject. So that's why we are still discussing that. And some people tell me that, oh, you shouldn't be, why are you just trying to milk the views on this controversial subject? Why don't you stop talking about it? And I'm like, why don't Devon and Engin stop talking about it? If they stop talking about it, I would have nothing to talk about.
Well, here's the thing. I guess you could say you're a reporter. We all got podcast shows. We all got stuff we want to talk about. When did it become a rule that we're not supposed to? Because, how many times have you seen on social media people talk about stuff and they don't have all the facts? You're just going off of what's been posted already by the people who are involved. That's all you're doing. There's nothing wrong with that, right? So I don't understand why you get picked on. Honestly, in my opinion, it's like, I'm just saying anything. I'm not, the stuff you're saying, you're not making up. These are legit facts because somebody else done posted it, or even the person that's directly involved has posted that. So I don't see why you get so much hate for that. It drives me crazy when I see people getting thrashed on social media when it's like, okay, let me ask you this question. If somebody else were saying that, are you saying the same thing?
And this is like, I'll give you an example why some people post hateful comments about me. Like in the recent video which I recorded, I haven't posted it yet. I said that I don't care if Engin is saying he's not asking anyone of the arm wrestlers to quit or to go with him. I don't care about that. I personally think he's asking that. Otherwise, why would everyone mention Engin's name in their posts? And even if he didn't ask, he should be taking responsibility because they're putting Engin's name there. So people will be commenting, how can you assume that it's Engin? I don't care. I think that it's Engin. I don't need to have proof of that to say that on my channel. I don't need to show you a proof even if I have it. I can go by my personal feelings. I'm even saying that I'm thinking that. Why does it need to be a law of nature that can be proven or something? So this is one stuff that I get a lot. And personally, I've never met a single person in my life that has said something so bad to me that I don't want to work with him, that I wouldn't want to be on his show, that I don't want to talk with him. I don't know how and why people get offended so much, unless somebody has like even we used to fight in the school. Like if some kid beats me up or if I beat someone up, the next day we're talking fine. I don't know what has happened to people in the arm wrestling community. People don't want to talk with each other. I think it's weird. There's not a single person in this world that I cannot talk to. There's not a single person in this world whose podcast I won't go on. Not even one.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, man. I know it's like, what time is it now? Like 2 something in the morning?
Yeah, almost 2. 1:47.
1:47 Tuesday morning. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and let you go because you may go for a nightcap on Coach Ray. So I'm going to go ahead and let you do that because I got some stuff I got to do anyway. But my man.
I'll see if he's still on. Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining me on the show. I appreciate that. It was always good to kind of come out there and just talk and stuff. Everybody in the chat, thanks for joining us. Taking a little time out of the day to kind of, hear us just kind of sit there and talk. I don't think we were disrespectful, were we? We just kind of we're just chatting. So we weren't disrespectful.
Maybe I was a little bit, but I don't care.
Well, there you go. So my friend, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. But thank you again. And man, we'll keep in touch and we'll talk soon.
Yeah. Thanks, brother. Thanks.
Take care.
Anytime you want me on the show, just let me know.
Sounds good. Everybody, thanks for watching the show. We'll talk to you guys soon. There he is. He's off to Coach Ray probably. So, hey, that was Pradeep. I was at work last night, working graveyard, and I was like listening to some of the videos, and I was like, yo, man, how about you and I rap about this? So it was pretty cool. So, again, everybody, we're almost about an hour in. I'm going to go ahead and get off. You guys can go ahead and join Coach Ray. He's still live, I think, from what I see. Yeah, he's still live. So there you go. Feel free to go over there. Again, we're just talking shop, guys. We're not jabbing at anybody, because honestly, at the end of the day, like I just said moments ago, athletes who are involved are kind of wondering, okay, which way are we going? Anyway, guys, enjoy your day. We'll talk soon.